went to one of my friends that has a lot of connections to like war dogs in Turkey and Syria, and he was like, well, we can probably hook you up with somebody for like an off-market Canon in Turkey. And I was like, that's crazy.
You want to introduce yourself?
My name is Augustus Dorico, and I'm the CEO and founder of Rainmaker Technology Corporation, a company that is doing weather modification to end droughts, end hurricanes, and terraform deserts.
And your perspective is that we should be using more water, not less. What should we be using more water on once we get it?
Almonds, mostly.
Nice.
Almonds.
Nice. Yeah. Butter or just regular? Like, what's the end product for the almonds? Just
for almonds, I don't even like to eat almonds, but the fact that people don't like almonds because they use too much water means
it's a good reason.
More. Yeah, exactly.
I think that's right.
So almonds, candidly, actually chips, right? Like TSMC uses more water than anyone.
Oh, not like Doritos, etc. Just
also
corn.
It's kind of slop, actually.
Yeah.
I'm not a big corn or carb respecter, but sugars, though, on the other hand, big appreciator.
Anything we could do with rain and sugar?
Sugar plantations, those are good.
That seems right.
Maybe you can synthesize some sort of like ethanol out of it as well. A lot of people are talking about synthetic fuels now, so that's something you need water for.
What's your perspective on hurricanes? Myth?
Not real. Everybody considers them like acts of God, right? Like contracts about either how data centers run or big buildings, insurance contracts, they all account for acts of God, which we call like hurricanes or other climatic events that we can't control. The problem is we can control them. The rules of the game with weather are not actually as we understand them to be. Like, we can change everything about like the climate for one, and then local weather as well. We have in the past with Project Storm Fury, this operation in the 70s and 80s, tried to break hurricanes before they ran up against the eastern seaboard. So we'd seed them over the Atlantic Ocean, get all the water out, or try to, so that they would do less damage to the seaboard. We should scale that project up 100-fold for the sake of protecting our coastlines, for the sake of preventing unnecessary damage to people's property, to people's well-being, lives lost. You know, I lived through Sandy and Irene growing up in Connecticut. I think that it's like a abdication of our moral responsibility to control the weather in the world that we've allowed hurricanes to persist.
I was there for Sandy in Lower Manhattan. Got to like walk around with all the dead rats floating around. It was a good time.
Nice, the big Manhattan rats.
Yeah, that was good. You tried to buy a howitzer cannon?
Yeah, so basically cloud seeding, right? It entails getting a chemical agent up into clouds that can either accelerate the rate of condensation of the water droplets or catalyze the freezing of the water droplets so you get big enough particles to fall. How you get the chemicals up there, I'm totally agnostic to. It doesn't matter if you use drones or planes or rockets or artillery, as long as it's cost effective and makes sense on the basis of unit economics. What I papered out initially when I was starting Rainmaker is that using a howitzer was the best way to deliver the chemical to
right
clouds.
To me too, yeah.
And then I went to some people in the Army Corps of Engineers and I was like, hello, I am a 23-year-old that would like a howitzer cannon. And they said, who are you? Get out of here, stop. But I went to one of my friends that has a lot of connections to like war dogs in Turkey and Syria. And he was like, well, we can probably hook you up with somebody for like an off-market Canon in Turkey. And I was like, that's crazy. I'll just use drones instead. That seems easier.
That seems more down the line. You're very well known for your hairstyle. What kind of power do you think that gives you?
A lot.
Yeah.
A lot of power. Do you know the story of Samson in the Bible?
Very familiar, yeah.
Exactly.
But if you'd like to share it with the audience, please feel free.
So the premise is like, one of God's prophets was blessed with this hair, and as the hair got longer, the more powerful he'd become.
Yeah.
And when they cut his hair, he lost all of its power.
And at what point of length, like, is it not a mullet anymore? And is it a different thing?
Yeah, you sort of get into the sort of effeminate, like down your back look. Past the shoulders, probably.
Past the shoulders is where it stops?
I think so.
Yeah.
But you can get pretty aggressive between here and past the shoulders.
Totally.
So.
And would you do anything like unique with it? Maybe a color or a...
You know, actually, I'll show you a picture after this. I had a fuchsia hair for like 2 years in high school.
Wow.
Crazy. Like bright, vibrant fuchsia.
Yeah.
I think I'm probably past my hair dying days.
I could see like you use the length for like an American flag situation, or like you could use it as like a advertisement for something.
What I'll do is this. I will dye the back of my head American flag colors. You dye your beard American flag colors.
Deal. Is it true that you had your deadlift, bench, and squat in your fundraising deck?
Of course. Yeah, of course. I think that's a great heuristic for measuring like someone's dedication and success. So.
What's a good bar to like kind of, if somebody's below X?
Uninvestable, below 225 bench, below 315 squat, below 405 deadlift, probably. Yeah, that's like something that you can write to zero.
So roughly 960, anything under 965 is pretty much a zero.
1,000-pound club. You should do a survey of your portfolio to figure out who you're going to follow on to based off those numbers.
I'm probably at just maybe you, and I have one. Probably got to get those numbers up.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, you're a big proponent of nootropics. primarily nicotine, caffeine. What else you like?
Well, let's do primarily caffeine.
Yeah.
Caffeine, nicotine, I think are useful things to hone your focus. There's this one funny one. Have we talked about Adrefuel?
It's the, what's the actual chemical?
This company in Austin makes this beverage that has adrafenol in it. Adrafenol is metabolized into modafinil.
Yep.
And so I don't favor it, but a lot of the most innovative and aggressive builders in hard tech in America are big proponents of adrafenol.
Nice. Not modafinil though.
Perhaps.
Maybe both.
Yeah. Although I think it's the AI guys that do more of the like Ritalin, Adderall stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't think it's a hard tech vibe to use those. Now that said, circling back to nicotine, there's a whole variety of modes of consumption of nicotine, right? So what's your preferred, and how do the different ones apply to different contexts?
That's a great question. I mean, I think that I primarily have just been like a roll your own kind of cigarette guy.
It's very European.
Yeah, which is...
You're sophisticated.
I know. Well, I kind of want to move away from the Eurocentricity, so I'm thinking about filterless Kentucky, Kentucky Marlboro Reds.
Okay, good. Yeah, smart. I think that Marlboro Reds, Hestias, like natural American spirits, those are all the sort of like on-brand American Dynamist variety. And then naturally for our boy Lucy's. Lucy's as well are up there.
Yeah. Why do you love being an American?
So there's two things. One, I think that we've done more spectacular, great, innovative things than any other nation on the planet. I think that we're a more moral stock of people and high integrity group of people than anyone else. You can see that in the fact that like we have baptized so many different cultures into the American ethos, and that's something that's really admirable that I don't think any other culture on the planet has the capacity to do. And then more than that, old cartographers, when they were making maps of the world, would draw more sea monsters in the oceans at the maps of the world, so more like angels and demons, right? And particularly being a Californian in America, right? Like being in the west of the West, you have more angels and demons present. So you have this aggressive dynamism, this real chaos, and this real potential to build new things. Being on the edge of the world, right? Like either in SF or in LA, look around. Anything cool that's happened in the last 50 years has happened here. So I value it for the sake of like the innovation that occurs and for the way in which people drag the future through their will into reality. And that's something that Americans do better than anyone else.
What do you want to tell people about what's happening in El Segundo, California right now?
What is happening in the Gundo? Great question. We're filming a mini doc on this, exactly. Anybody that wants to do anything significant in hardware, in defense, in deep tech is in El Segundo. This one area called Smoky Hollow, right? It's nestled between LAX, so you see these gargantuan planes, tons of commerce, tons of traffic, spectacular engineering. You see these planes going in and out all day long, and you have the persistent whir of the Chevron refinery there, right? So El Segundo is named after this refinery because it was the second Standard Oil refinery built in California, the Segundo. So you're nestled between LAX to the north, the Chevron refinery to the south, the Pacific Ocean, and the Hyperion Water Reclamation Plant to the west. The Hyperion Water Reclamation Plant, you know, to nerd out as like the water guy, is one of the most sophisticated pieces of water infrastructure in the world. It recycles, I think, like 30% of the water that it takes in and uses that to recharge aquifers that are depleted. And then it uses the fecal matter as like biofuel, so it actually exports power. And then to the east, you have all the defense primes, you have SpaceX, like this legacy of talent, this glut of talent, people that are trying to build real tangible things with atoms. And then in El Segundo, Valor Atomics, my buddy Isaiah's company, Cameron Schiller and Aidan Gasser's company Rangeview is there. Soren and Olaf, friends of mine running Neros, like all of the most aggressive, most ambitious deep tech, hard tech things, like Zane Mountcastle stuff, probably, well, I won't say it'll kill Anduril or anything, that'd be crazy, but these great up and coming defense and hardware companies are all there. The energy is ridiculous. And not only is it like people that are trying to build great things to change the texture and the fabric of the world, like everybody's a chiller and you can hang too. There's this weird thing in SF where it's like, okay, EAC, very cool, but also, I don't know, touch grass, get outside, go like talk to a member of like the opposite sex or something. They don't. People in El Segundo seem to be capable of that, in addition to building cool technology and shareholder value. What
are some non-obvious things that you can do with control of the weather that you think that would make the world a better place?
Well, so let's just disqualify the obvious things, right? Like getting rid of hurricanes, suppressing wildfires, terraforming deserts, turning those arable and more green, more biodiverse. Some of the non-obvious stuff though is like what China and Russia do. You know, like the expression, don't let it rain on your parade? They don't let rain happen on their parades.
Smart.
Yeah, exactly. So they induce precipitation all around the parades in the hours or days beforehand to clear it out so that they have like beautiful clear skies for it. So like there's that application. Taylor Swift and her Eras tour, if she wants to talk about how to prevent her concerts being rained out, Rainmaker's got it covered. Then
UK,
also,
could you do the whole entire UK? I feel like they'd pay a lot.
as an American, I would have to price in the fact that I want to dunk on the UK.
Sure.
And also like airport delays from rain and inclement weather, like you can just make air transit much better.
Yeah.
That's another application that people don't think about a lot. Oh wait, no, there's a funnier one. You're familiar with like these gender reveal parties, right?
Sure.
Much cooler than some like balloon or whatever, or flare or something. There's these iridescent clouds that you can make that have a certain composition of chemical particulate or ice, and at the appropriate angle can either shine as pink or blue.
Wow.
So we can do really
gender reveal parties.
affluent baby shower.
Rough cost on that one, just back of the napkin math.
Few 7 figures-ish.
7 figures-ish.
7 figures-ish.
Nice. Nice. Maybe you could like just practically explain why people shouldn't be scared of something like this. Like I think that most people, if they don't really understand the context of what you're doing here, it becomes like, is this man trying to play God? What's the end goal here? This is like, it seems like very evil villain in a way, you know what I mean? And the mullet and the, just the vibe and the huge lifts, it all just contributes to this very villainous, even the laugh, How do you dispel people from like just looking at this surface level and being like, this guy is probably trying to do just bad villainous things?
Yeah, so I think that there's 3 angles here, right? Like the first one is that in a way similar to AI, we should be very wary of weather modification tech, right? Like we should not be totally rogue with the application of it. We should not diverge from like scientific consensus on what is an acceptable way to apply it, because you can change the climate in a way that would be adverse to our interests or ecological interests. So like I actually appreciate and welcome skepticism from like the general public and then also the academic community on this and the regulatory communities. Now that said, we've been doing weather modification for the last 70 years, right? Like we invented it in 1953. We were doing it at a large scale for 30 years in the United States. Then, China, the UAE, Saudi, Russia, Brazil, they're engaged in gargantuan weather modification projects. They're doing well. They're benefiting from it, right? Like the Yangtze River Delta in China is becoming greener. The hydropower is supplemented because of it. The agriculture is better off because of it. They're trying to restore some of the Amazon via weather modification in Brazil. So it's not without precedent. We've been okay doing it so far. Obviously, I think that we ought to do it at a larger scale. Now, this gets into the third point. Why should we do it at a larger scale? We have one known path where water is increasingly scarce. That's what we're going towards now. We know gradually the American West's agriculture, the American West's population, it will collapse because we'll have less and less water available. Worse than that still, everything will either become endangered or extinct. All of the biodiversity there will die. And will die like with a whimper, right? Yep. So what I would say, we have the known outcome, which is American decline, ecological collapse, or the relatively known but in need of investigation outcome, which is weather modification, that has the potential to not only save us from this death, but also usher in a new era of being closer to a Kardashev 1 civilization, right? Where we can use all of the planet's resources, all of the climate's resources for the sake of bettering both human flourishing and ecological well-being.
This is a very big idea, and if it works, probably be a nice little outcome for you. If and when you get very rich off this, what are we spending our money on?
I don't really care about, what I would like? I care about the money, I guess, but I would like to build cathedrals. I think that would be good.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I would like to build modern cathedrals in a way that like old European monarchs once did. That seems like it'd be exciting.
And just put them in random places in America?
Yeah, exactly.
Like a Boise, Idaho cathedral.
Los Angeles, El Segundo.
That'd be nice.
Yeah, now aside from that, I'm trying to think if there's some more like frivolous, gluttonous way to spend the money. Oh, actually, you know what it'll be? If I have already had kids and they're well attended to, as long as I've had like somewhere between 3 and 12.
Yep.
And my wife is satisfied with the size of our family, I'll probably spend it on anabolics research.
Nice.
I think that more research into muscle growing and androgenizing hormones would probably be beneficial for the world.
That's sick.
Yeah, exactly.
So start like an incubator for different types of anabolics.
Yeah, exactly.
That's cool.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Trenbolone was only the beginning.
Yeah, just the start. Is there anything that we didn't touch on that you'd like to just put out there into the world?
Probably that if you work in finance, SaaS, law, or marketing, I would encourage you to think long and hard about like whether or not you're gonna be able to look back at your life when you're on your deathbed and whether it was worthwhile. You know, like VC, that's awesome.
Sure.
Thanks for capital.
Yeah.
But also like, you know.
Yeah. No.
So yeah, I would just say like think about hard problems, build things with atoms. Probably go out with the boys more often. That's probably what I would end on.
Sick. Yeah. Okay. Great. Well, thank you for your time.
Cool. Thanks, dog.
All right.